Hello again, everybody. My name is Tyler Bushy, and we are back with round 3 of the AoS DaBoyz Golden Sprue GT. We're going to have a very exciting game ahead. Chaos on chaos action. You're going to have the Maggotkin of Nurgle, piloted by Paul Conti, against Dan Berg's Reapers of Vengeance, Blades of Corn. So this is going to be a bloody, nasty game. This battle plan being one with the unique condition where the deployment zone allows you to deploy all the way up to the line, which is incredible for an army like Maggotkin that is very tanky. So we're going to see the Maggotkin of Nurgle being able to get right into the face of the opponent early on. I'm going to get into the list here in a moment, but just a little bit about each of the players. I believe both Paul and Dan are from Connecticut. And they have both played in a lot of events, both in this area and other GTs, longtime players. Paul, I believe, is also a content creator. So later on in the stream, perhaps we'll get his handle so we can give him a shameless plug as well. But Paul also has done some event organizing. Berg's doing some event organizing in the Northeast as well, which is super awesome. So great to have them both here, putting on for all of the TOs in the Northeast. But with that, getting into the list, while these two are deploying, as I said, we have Maggotkin of Nurgle, the Fouling Host, against Dan's Reapers of Vengeance, Blades of Corn. I'm going to start with the Blades of Corn army.
Stream up yet?
Stream is up.
Who's on? Who's viewing?
One person so far.
Who is this?
They might not respond. It might be my wife.
Talking?
No, it's Sean again. It's Sean again.
Perfect. Great. You're going to play it around 4?
But with that, jumping into the Blades of Corn list, so Dan is running Reapers of Vengeance, which is going to give him +1 blood tithe from killing an enemy hero, and his demons will get +1 to hit heroes. Blood tithe being a resource that is going to be generated when models die throughout this game. We'll get into some of the specifics of what Dan can do throughout the game, but with that blood tithe, he can zip units across the board, he can tie up his opponent's forces. There's a lot of utility that he can draw from the blood tithe points that he's going to generate and store over the course of the game. With that, getting into the actual unit composition, Dan is bringing a Wrath of Corn Bloodthirster. It's a substantially sized monster. It's his general, and its war scroll lets you activate another monster after it activates in combat. So, alongside that, he is pairing this with another Bloodthirster, which we'll get to in a minute here. But Dan has given his general the Firebrand command trait, which is making him a priest that knows 2 prayers. He's chosen Heal and Bloodbind. Heal allowing him to heal a little bit of damage off one of his models, and Bloodbind, range 16 inches, is going to be allowing Dan on a prayer value of 3 to move a target 8 inches towards a caster to 16-inch range prayer. Incredibly useful, allows him to pull units right where he wants them, pick apart his opponent's screens. There's going to be a lot of very nifty things that, if employed correctly, Dan will be able to do with Bloodbind throughout this game. Moving on from there, I gave a shout out to the other Bloodthirster, but Dan is also bringing a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage. The Boomthirster, as we lovingly call it. 6s to wounds, do 4 mortal wounds. That amount does bracket over the course of the game. 6s to wound, just cause violence. That's really the better way to put it. It's a lot of damage. Dan has been very successful with it so far this event. I talked to Dan a little bit before the setup of the table, and he has actually put out 96 mortal wounds with the Boomthirster so far this event in 2 rounds, which is absolutely obscene. In addition to that, the Wrath of Corn Bloodthirster is going to get in there, peel apart some type of unit first, force the Bloodthirster to activate, walk in, hopefully blow up a whole lot of units on Dan's behalf. So definitely super exciting to see when it pops off. Maybe we'll get to witness a little bit of that here. In addition to that, the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage is also packing the King of Blades artifact, which is going to turn off wards within 3. Really good in this matchup, as we'll get to Nurgle, but Nurgle has a army-wide 5++ meaning that anytime they are taking damage on a roll of 5 up, unless something specifically says that it cannot be negated, they're getting an opportunity to shake off that damage, which is huge value. Especially when you consider that they have pretty solid wound characteristics across the army. It is tanky. They're going to deal chip damage. But we'll get into more of that soon. With that, Dan is also bringing the Slaughter Priest, who is a foot hero that has a couple prayers that we'll come back to, Killer Instinct and Curse. Curse is probably actually one I'll touch on now, but being incredibly important, making it so he has an additional source of mortal wounds from 6s. It is a short-range prayer, 9 inches on Curse, but he will be able to draw a lot of value from that over the course of this game. In addition to that, he has a Nullstone Adornment, the Pouch of Null Dust. This is a super fun, unique enhancement from the current GHB. The Null Dust Pouch allows you to call it during your opponent's turn and basically increases the likelihood that they will suffer a primal miscast that is a miscast that is done using their primal dice. Instead of occurring on a 1, or a pair of 1s rather, the opponent will have it occur on 2s and 3s also. So super, super dangerous. The Pouch of Null Dust in the right situation can put out a lot of damage. Paul does have some casters that we will get to momentarily here. So definitely be used to great effect. One thing you'll notice as I go through Dan's list here is it's Khorne. There's no wizards in this list. Khorne does not like magic. Sometimes players get a little cheesy. They throw in Bellicor. They throw in a Regiment of Renown to squeeze some wizards in. Not Dan. Dan is a tried and true Khorne purist, and he is running not a single wizard in his list. So he has access to that Pouch of Null Dust, which will allow him to leverage some advantage over his opponents that are bringing casters. That being said, moving along, he also has a Realm Gore Ritualist. It's a nice, cheapy little foot hero that can desecrate terrain or an objective, and it will give mortals, I believe within 9 inches of that terrain piece or objective. Don't quote me on that range, we'll come back to it. But they get a +1/2 hit. Prayers for the Realm Gore also. Got Bronze Flesh, super good, gives them +1 armor save to a unit. Also has heal here too, another source of some attritional value in this list, a couple sources of the heal prayer. He also has Drom, who is a priest with Unholy Flames, which is giving Dan a Rend buff, and Blood Sacrifice, which is effectively a battery for Blood Tithe. Lastly, he has another foot hero who is, unlike the others, not a priest. That is the Blood Secrator, very important. Once per game during the combat phase, he is going to give +1 attacks to a unit, which is a huge source of output for the Khorne army when leveraged well. Moving on to the battle line, Dan has 20 Blood Warriors, which are a relatively tanky infantry unit. So he'll be using those to tie up space. In addition to that, he has 2 units of 8 Claws of Karanak, which have a pre-game move. They're relatively cheap Warcry models, actually, that Dan is leveraging here to score some additional battle tactics, give him some additional movement. They generate Blood Tithe relatively cheaply. Moving on from there to the last of Dan's units, he has the Gore Chosen of Drum, which are a unit of 2 models that are paired with Drum, the priest. And then he's running a pair of Furies who have the unique ability to retreat when they are activated. Super good, lots of awesome movement tricks that you can utilize using Furies. I know a handful of Nurgle players that have used these models to great effect. We've also seen them in armies such as Slanesh over time as well. Super versatile game piece. With that being said, Dan is running a pair of invocations. First, the Hexgorger Skulls, which is going to push out a -2 to cast. And then if you roll a casting roll of 8 while you are within 8 inches of the Hexgorger Skulls, you lose the spell forever. Your wizard can never cast that spell again, which is a hilarious after effect of this prayer. And also every wizard within 8 inches is going to take 8 mortal wounds. So the Hexgorger Skulls really just don't be within 8. Because if you're within 8, 8 will happen, and then 8 will deal 8. Wrath Axe is also another invocation that Dan has chosen here. Basically, everything that's moving over is going to take D3 mortal wounds on a 2+, so look out for a little source of damage from there as well. But with that, that is effectively the Blades of Khorne. We'll get into a little more of the versatility of the Blades of Khorne abilities as we go. Paul, on the opposite side of the table here, is playing the Befouling Host, which is a Maggotkin of Nurgle subfaction that allows him to bring an extra one of the Maggotkin tree terrain pieces, which he can use to spread disease on the board, but also as a summoning point for his army. One thing that's really cool about both of these armies is that they will be summoning models from off-table, so we're going to see some magic happen from the Great Beyond. Well, not magic in the case of Corn's case. But with that, the grand strategy for Paul is spread rampant disease, and I highlight this now because that is putting one disease on all enemy units, and that's really going to be the crux of Paul's strategy here. He's going to be trying to lay out as many disease points as possible throughout this game. He has a handful of sources of singular disease points. Being stuck in with the Maggotkin of Nurgle is going to issue disease points. He's really going to be trying to lay into Dan and offer as much pain long-term as possible. Nurgle being the god of disease in the Age of Sigmar universe, his units do everything that they seem like they would do once you get into what their abilities are called and what they look like. That being said, Paul's got a handful of leaders. He has the Glotkin, which is a monstrous mound of flesh. It has an excellent command ability called Blightcrig, which is going to allow him to countercharge at the end of the enemy movement phase if one of his units is within 12 inches of an enemy, or rather if the Glotkin is within 12 inches. He can attempt to charge. He's also a 2-cast wizard and a War Master. He's got Gift of Disease, which is a cute little spell that Paul can use to throw out a singular disease point. He also has Rancid Visitations, which we will come back to. But Sloppity Bilepiper also in the list. He is a cute little demon that Paul will probably also summon from the Great Beyond. But main thing you need to know about Sloppity Bilepiper is that he will stop pile-ins within 3 inches of friendly Nurgle demons while they are wholly within 14 inches of Sloppity Bilepiper. A lot of great utility here from this piece. Paul is going to use it with his Beasts of Nurgle and his Plague Bearers to effectively freeze his opponent's miniatures in place. Ordinarily, a lot of models will have 1 inch, 2 inch reach, and so if Paul is able to create a situation where that unit is beyond 2 inches from his models and they can't pile in further, they will simply be stuck in combat without the ability to actually output any damage. Really painful for the opponent, really good for the Nurgle player because they are incredibly tanky and it makes their models last so much longer. In addition to that, Paul has the Lord of Afflictions. Generally, this is paired with some of the Nurgle flies to deep strike and bring in a unit. In this case, Paul is running just the Lord of Afflictions as a solo piece to deep strike. And then lastly, his general is the Great Unclean One. The 2-cast wizard. He can also cut himself for an unpreventable mortal wound, taking 1 extra mortal there to gain an extra cast. He could be a 3-cast wizard. But it is also an incredibly tanky support piece. He also has the Nurgling Infestation command trait, which, as it stands, Paul doesn't have any Nurglings in his list, but he can summon them and they will receive a benefit from this, but it will also give a -1 to hit to the Great Unclean One. In addition to that, the spells are Flaming Weapon and Fleshy Abundance. Flaming Weapon, obviously, making the Great Unclean One, who is not incredibly punchy, a slight bit more, and in addition to that, Fleshy Abundance giving a additional 1 to the characteristic of models that Paul targets with this spell. So he'll probably use this with his unit of Plague Bearers, which is a unit of 20 infantry, to give them an extra wound and make them absolutely tanky. So difficult to move. They all have a 5++. They'll gain an additional wound, which means that they will be 3 wound models. It's a lot to get through. That being said, he's also packing 4 Beasts of Nurgle. These are models that have retreat in charge. On 2-ups when they charge, they deal D3 mortals, and they can also inflict a disease on a 4+. So Paul will be using these to control his opponent's movement and also spread some of that disease. These are also a unit that you will commonly see summoned from off-table because they are relatively cheap and they are good value. That being said, players are off to the races, so before I opine further on their armies, I want to talk about a little bit of some of the action that we're seeing on table here. That being said, it looks like Dan has been given the first turn. Now, this map is pretty interesting in that you can deploy all the way up to the center of the board. And so you've seen here both players have deployed aggressively, and it looks like in the hero phase, Dan may be utilizing some of his Blood Tithe, unless he's already made it to the charge phase here, to push one of these units into the forefront of Paul's army, tying up his movement. Paul has his plague bearers in the front, not particularly punchy units, but this will allow Dan to buy himself space, accumulate blood tithe. Paul, on the other hand, you'll see that he does have the Glotkin tied up right behind those plague bearers. He is definitely ready to tie up Dan's units as much as possible. Actually, I may be mistaken. It may be that this is Paul's turn, and Dan has maneuvered that unit using his blood tithe points in his opponent's hero phase. It's super interesting to see here. What I will do really quickly is I'd like to talk about the Nurgle wheel and some of the residual debuffs that they can apply. I'm going to step away from the table here for a moment just to get a table update, get an idea of the battle tactic that was called and how things have transpired in the hero phase while I was talking through lists.
Never run.
Guys, I don't know who to root for because I love Corrin, but I also like Paul. I like both these guys. Let me look. I'm looking for Sean. I don't see him. Nothing. Bushy walked away. He's not here.
Did you unmute it?
No.
You did
yes,
unmute it.
I did. I know how to use
I thought you were talking to yourself.
I know how to use my streaming.
Barely.
How's the paint judging going? It's Jared's having a great time paint judging. He's only had one beer because you're not here, Sean. He's only drank one beer. And then guess what kind of beer? I'm not even gonna let you guess. It's a Coors Light. Pathetic.
No UC at this event.
Yeah. We are missing Utica clubs. Yeah, that's my thought exactly, Sean. Yeah.
And the worst part is that Jared is pretending that he enjoys it.
If a nickel could. So far, paint is going really well. I wish that more people would come up to the paint booth. We probably have judged about 40 different armies between Age of Sigmar and Legion. What's really surprising is that Legion has taken very well to like the soft scoring side of this tournament. It's not something I anticipated, but they're not just like complaining. They're just completely embracing it, which is so not what I expected.
Yeah, we don't do that in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, and you know what? I have more paint judge armies in Legion than Age of Sigmar, which is really weird.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I need more Age of Sigmar folks to come up, but they still have until the end of today at 7:30 for me to judge their armies. So they got to do that before the end of the day, and if they don't, well, then they don't get any hobby points because I got too much to do tomorrow, and we're down one paint judge. I don't remember who was supposed to be here.
I have no idea who it was supposed to be. He is definitely not in the chat right now.
Definitely not. Evan is playing in Legion. There's a guy named Hobbs. He's the Legion tournament organizer. He's super cool. I've been buying him drinks. And the more drinks he has, the better he gets at judging.
That's crazy. That's about how I do at Age of Sigmar, too.
Yeah. And Madigan has had how many drinks so far? She's smiling ear to ear.
She is
3 drinks.
Red in the
I can't see her face, but she's got like anime happy eyes. So I know she's smiling because her cheekbones are like, you know, like
her
you're
face
happy.
is beet red. She is walking with
Yep.
a slight lean.
She,
Her judging is not faltered, but her movement is incredibly sloppy.
everywhere she goes, she has to put her arm on like a table, or a hand on a table or a chair. but she's doing an excellent job.
That being said, I did get some confirmation from the table on what's transpiring here. So Dan was able to generate some blood tithe in his opponent's turn here and throw one of his screens into the forefront of Paul's army, limiting his movement. You see Paul has begun to move some of his models downrange. We've seen some of the Beasts of Nurgle flare out and the Lord of Afflictions come down on the top part of the left side objective here, a little bit off base just due to where the Gore Chosen of Grom are positioned on the table currently. That being said, Dan definitely really looking to limit the pressure from Paul here, who actually has gone first.
Those are the claws of Karanak there that have moved into combat, correct?
Yep.
Better than they look.
They're quite good. They're not sticky, but they're good. I mean, fighting plague bearers, they might be.
Well, they're like a box of matches. They get in there and then they light up and they're gone.
Yeah. You should be commenting this game.
Corn?
You love corn.
I do love corn. So the Wrath of Corn Thirster is pretty cool. He's got the dark wings, and then the Boom Thirster's got the glowy orange wings.
Here's his list. Give us your thoughts.
Let me look.
Tell me how you really feel.
Let's see. Wrath guy, he's really good. You got the double prayers. That's really good. See, he's got the heal. I can see where that would be good, but I might take something a little different. Bloodbind is legit.
Bloodbind's very legit.
That's
a
serious.
biggie.
That's a big prayer.
That's a big boy prayer.
Realm Gore Ritualist is also a big deal. I'm not sure I'm sold on double heal though. He's got heal on two different characters.
Yeah.
And I think heal is kind of one of the weaker prayers. D3 wounds healed back is just kind of okay, right?
I thought maybe you might consider double curse.
I like
two
curse
generics.
on one, but curse has to be so close that you really have to get off the bloodbind, get the unit within range, and then use the curse after. That's really tough to do.
I did agree that the double heal though was interesting. I called it out during the initial list run here.
Yeah, but I mean,
it is cool.
If you're finding value in the heal, so be it.
Yeah. Well, his list is also a little monster centric in that he's got the two bloodthirsters. He's getting in there. He probably wants to keep them alive as much as possible. He's probably bronzing their flesh, giving them the bonus to save.
So I might replace one of these heals with a blood sacrifice.
Fair.
Blood sacrifice is super powerful.
Explain for the audience what is blood sacrifice.
So blood sacrifice is I succeed on a 3+ prayer. It's rerollable usually because you're within range of the tower there, the Tower of Power for Khorne. And then you pick a unit within range, and they suffer D3 mortals. It's great when you use it on demons because they get a 5-up ward against all the mortals. So pretty cool because you get a blood type point.
Yeah.
And blood type points, as we may have seen, maybe not in this tournament, but many times before, are quite powerful. Especially when you move into combat and disrupt your opponent's battle tactics.
Some armies, you can almost deny all of their movement for a turn.
Oh,
it's insanely powerful.
So I'm not completely sold on this artifact, King of Blades, on the Boom Thirster, but I don't know. Maybe because he's taking the double prayer. I really like the King of Blades on the other.
Yeah, I think the thought here is too that he's activating this, clearing the screen, moving the Boom Thirster and denying the ward, and then trying to boom out.
Doing the explosion. It's a high roll move.
Yeah. I mean, it's working for him so far. 96 mortals across the tournament so far at the Boom Thirster. It's quite the accomplishment.
He's a high roller then.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for Khorne. Blood for the Blood God. Drom's pretty interesting. I've never seen people play Drom. Typically people aren't feeling his unique spell, and they instead take the standard priest for the what's it called? The D6 Mortal Wound Prayer. Can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's pretty good. Bloodsecrator's a badass. Everyone knows what he does. He's way better than he ever was. More map wide, once per game, bonus attack, and he's actually a pretty decent hero with a good profile for his points.
Yeah, I should mention that is a board-wide ability. You're not targeting a particular unit. I may have skipped over that during the initial intro.
So Blood Warriors, 20 Blood Warriors, look, not a bad tar pit. Blood boil. Thank you, Sean. Not a bad tar pit. 20 blood warriors, 40 wounds on a 3+. Oftentimes it's a 2. The Gorglaives can do some serious damage, and they're split, so it's like 2+2 attacks when you got the Blood Secretor. So it's a -2 rend, 2 damage, and you can bump that to -3 rend off these little bonus Gorglaives with the Unholy Flame. So a nice target for the Blood Warriors, and a nice target for Curse the Blood Warriors. They have high volume attacks. He's taking the Gore Asks and the Gore Fists, so that's going to be 4 attacks per Blood Warrior. When something's cursed, that's going to do a lot of mortal wounds. Downside of the Blood Warriors is they're 32 mil bases, and Galatian veterans don't exist anymore, so they kind of are clunky to use in combat, if you know what I'm trying to say. They also, in a unit of 20, they don't really contribute to the Blood Tithe in a way that I would really like them to. But one of the sweet things is that they do come back on a 4+ from a totem with Rally. So they combo real well with the Blood Secretor. It's a sweet tar pit when you move them out of combat in subsequent turns when their opponent starts a turn. Claws of Karanex, great, really just for the pregame move and a screen.
And their battle line.
And their battle line. I don't know about doubling down though. I think you really need 1. I think I might take a Fleshhound unit outside of them for the extra Unbind.
I do find that, because he has 2 units of Furies as well, I find the redundancy of having all of these cheapy, high movement units very good. Especially given that, Surround and Destroy is a battle tactic. That looks really good, I think.
They're a good screen. The Furies are sweet. They do some good damage. They have no save from what I remember. But I think the Fleshhounds might be, what's total points? 1990? I think I might... Chosen a Drum is an interesting choice. I don't think any of these are like make or break, like necessarily a bad choice. But I think there could be some more efficient options, if that makes sense.
I do like that with the Gore Chosen and the Drum that you are buying 2 units for that cost.
Yes.
And so that's an extra Blood Tithe. I think that the Gore Chosen with Drum doesn't feel prohibitively expensive versus buying another hero and a unit.
Yes.
It's similar. It's a slight bit cheaper.
It is. I think that probably one of the better warbands might be like, what the hell is it called? The Blood Warrior one. Magor's Fiends is a very points efficient unit. It's 9 wounds on a 3+. And so they're not like standard Blood Warriors. They get 3 wounds instead of 2.
Yep.
And they hit pretty hard for a cheap little unit. And then in addition, you get a doggo who's got 5-up ward when 7 inches away from enemy heroes. He's got an Unbind, another one, which is just more annoying for your opponent, more anti-spell in a meta that's about spells.
Yeah. There's also inherent value in bringing a doggo.
In bringing a doggo, especially when combined with claws, because they get +1 to hit or whatever. And then in addition to that, the doggo is a sweet target for Blood Sacrifice because you can outright kill the doggo to Blood Sacrifice and get a double. Yeah, double Blood Tithe.
Pretty good. I mean, killing the doggo doesn't feel great, but I mean, that's what he's there for.
It doesn't feel bad. Well, let's see. I mean,
looks like those claws were removed, and we have a Beast of Nurgle making contact on the right side of Dan's deployment here. Laying down some disease, laying down some mortal wounds.
I don't think that Dan is going to feel the impact of those 32mm bases on the 20-man Blood Warrior unit in this particular match because the units that Paul is running, the units that Paul runs are pretty big, outside of the beasts.
They are substantial, and I think also when you're playing Maggotkin of Nurgle and you're running this many Beasts of Nurgle, you're trying to charge and make contact at multiple points of the unit to spread it thin.
Lock them down.
But I mean, from Dan's perspective, that's golden, you're like, okay, cool. Those guys weren't doing any damage in the back line anyway.
Somewhat. So if he locks Dan's units down and Dan doesn't do enough damage to kill these beasts,
he's in
a real precarious position because the Bloodthirsters won't have the screens required to make them useful, and Paul's definitely going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and it does appear currently that the Bloodthirsters are exposed, and one of them is tied up with the Beast of Nurgle.
Yes.
So we'll have to see how this pans out, and if Dan is able to escape the clutches of this Beast of Nurgle this turn. And of course, a big prio. I mean, not for nothing. I mean, we've been talking about the combination of the two Bloodthirsters with the General coming in, maybe clearing the screen or chipping away at a unit, and the Boomthirster coming in and doing some serious damage. But he needs to escape this engagement to make that happen.
So he just bloodbound Paul's sloppy bile piper. I'm not sure what the ability on this, but doesn't it stop you from piling?
Piling in if you're wholly within, or for demon units wholly within 14 inches of sloppy bile piper. So removing this is actually, I think, pretty substantial, because as it stands, the sloppity was preventing Dan from piling in and meaningfully removing the Beast of Nurgle. Because Paul had only made contact with a single one of the Blood Warriors. So now that he has Bloodbound and pulled in Sloppy Bile Piper, he's going to have a very strong chance at removing it here, and then potentially on a double, he might be able to come in and do some serious damage to what Paul has there. And of course, having the artifact to deny the mortal or the ward save on Paul's models as well, he could do some serious damage.
Paul has some sweet, Dan has some sweet range attacks. It is possible that Dan could take the Sloppy Bile Piper out right before even combat, or do enough damage to it so that when he goes into combat, it's a damn near guaranteed kill. And then I think once it's gone, does the effect of the pile-in last? Or can you kill it?
If you kill it, it goes. But the key bit is that the longer this game goes, Paul can summon additional Sloppy Bile Piper.
That's scary.
So this is going to be a continuous threat for Dan to have to deal with.
Not having Blood Boil here is a detriment. Also, like, some things that I think Dan might be missing in this moment are the Wrath Axe to do extra bonus damage, and you could, for example, pull him in, and if you have multiple priests, you can Wrath Axe, and then you can hit him with the Blood Boil to do a lot of mortal wounds. And if you pull him into the guy with the Anger Wrath, you don't have a choice. He's taking all that damage, and then you can do your charges after you kill him.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll see what happens. I think Dan's in a reasonable position. I wouldn't pick one army over the other at this point.
Yeah, certainly still early. I do believe Paul accomplished his battle tactic and held one to end more on the first turn here. So we'll see how things shake out in Dan's turn. We'll get confirmation from the table in a minute on the battle tactic selection for Dan. But Paul had chosen Don't Squabble Children for his first turn battle tactic.
Told Ross and Hunter we'll judge theirs in the morning because they both want to bring in their display boards.
As long as you're willing to do it, I got a lot to do in the morning.
Will do. Yep.
We see the Furies moving on the top left side of the table. There is the potential here, and just based on the board, that Dan is potentially setting up a Surround and Destroy, or has just called it from the get-go here. We do see a second unit of Furies in the back line here, so definitely an interesting position to be in. We'll see some of these shooting attacks come out shortly. See if he can remove the Beast of Nurgle. Looks like Dan here is working out his next action on table. I do want to go back and talk a little bit about the Maggotkin wheel, which is an incredibly valuable piece that Nurgle just gets naturally by being Nurgle. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, essentially Nurgle has a wheel. At the start of your hero phase, for one of the modes, you're going to receive an extra CP for each of your trees, or rather for just in general for having it, right? That's just a generic thing that you're getting. But on top of that, you're going to have 6 stages on this wheel, and you're going to cycle through them as the game goes. For one, Nurgle heroes get a 4+ ward, which is incredibly valuable with 2 large heroes in Paul's army. On top of that, all units are treated as being within 14 inches of a locus of fecundity, which we'll get to in a minute. In addition to that, at the start of the hero phase on the 3rd, you can roll dice equal to the current battle round. For each 4-up, you get an extra CP. Plague of Misery makes it so that heroes that do not have the Nurgle keyword cannot carry out heroic actions or issue rally or inspiring presence. So you're not rallying models, you're not doing the battle shot command, so you're definitely going to be taking some residual damage. On the 5th section of the wheel, you're subtracting 1 from charge rolls for enemy units that do not have the Nurgle keyword. Enemy units that don't have it cannot finish a pile-in move closer to a friendly Nurgle unit than they were at the start of the move. Very similar to Sloppity Bile Piper, but this time on a faction ability that you are not able to interact with. And then lastly, 6 is Rampant Disease, which is adding 1 to the disease rolls that you make. A lot of value baked into the wheel. We'll get confirmation on where that is sitting presently in a moment here. That being said, looks like Paul may have Blightkrieg a unit into engagement with the Bloodthirster. Paul doing everything he can to tie up the Bloodthirster in the front here, preventing that 1-2 punch of the 2 Bloodthirsters together. Sloppity still on table. Obviously, Blightkrieg taking place, if I recall correctly, at end of enemy movement phase. So now Dan kind of got to wait this out. He goes, okay, I have all these Plague Bearers in play. They are engaged with me. I can't pile in. I need to remove Sloppity. How do I do that? How do I navigate that? Removing it, of course, giving him the opportunity to pile in, deal as much damage to the Plague Bearers as humanly possible. Paul stretching the Plague Bearers out far and wide so that way he can pull them out of engagement and just shoot them back in with another Blightkrieg in a future turn potentially. So this is going to be a very surgical game with a lot of interesting and unique movement strategies. Moving in the opponent's turn, which is going to be incredibly engaging to watch as well. You see now Paul daisy chaining the Plague Bearers in a ring around both of the Bloodthirsters. Appears to be surrounding and tagging one, if not actually both, it appears. So they are not going to be moving a whole lot unless Sloppity Bile Piper is removed from the table here. Of course, same thing as we had mentioned before, Dan tagged on the bottom by the Beast of Nurgle as well, so not able to make a meaningful advancement on that until Sloppity is removed. Worth noting, Sloppity Bile Piper, foot hero. Little tiny foot hero. 110 points, and Paul is unlocking all of this value. He is restricting 120 points, but he is restricting a substantial amount of movement coming out from Dan's side of the board. And it puts Dan in a precarious position because the longer this goes on, the less likely he is to get value out of those Bloodthirsters. He really wants to get the both of those in, so he's going to be looking for an opportunity here to break out of his shell, get these Plague Bearers out of his way, get Sloppity off the board with some of his shooting potentially. But very good controlling position for Paul's Maggot Kid. So one thing that I had mentioned before was the Locus of Fecundity that was on the wheel. I do want to come back to that, actually, I mentioned that, because I think it is important here as we're seeing Paul make some moves that are geared towards attrition. He's controlling movement, he's limiting engagements, right? So he's limiting how much output Dan is able to press into him. Super important, too, because Khorne is not an army that is known for having exceptional damage output. But with that, there's a number of friendly units that are just inherently a Locus of Fecundity. But basically, the disgustingly resilient battle trait that Nurgle has allows the Nurgle player to heal D3 wounds allocated to a model instead of 1 if they're within 14 inches of any loci of Fecundity. So basically, when he hits that section of the wheel, all of his models are going to be healing D3 allocated to a model instead of 1, which is really good. Combine that with a 5++, and the Nurgle army is incredibly sticky and difficult to move. That being said, I am going to take a moment here to just get a quick table update from us. It looks like Sloppity may have been removed, which is super important for the Khorne force here. So let's take a peek at what's going on. I'll report back with the battle tactic and a few more insights about the table.
16 mortal wounds, folks. Big, fat explosion. Very high roll. Brutal. Yeah. Boom is for real. That was from the Boom Thirster. He swung and it was like unreasonably good rolling. But you weathered it. Good on you. So oh boy. It is hitting everything. But the good news for Paul is that he does get his word saves here because he is outside the range of Angarath's blade.
Yeah, we did have a boom while I was up at the table here. Another huge splash of mortal wounds from the Boom Thirster, putting Paul up to a count of, I think he's at 133 for the event so far, which is substantial amount of damage. Sloppity off the table now. Paul's movement has been opened up a little bit and he's able to splash out some of that damage. Battle tactic for the turn from Dan was to kill a unit within 12 of the Blood Shrine, which he is definitely on track. Actually, he's already accomplished it. In the time I was away, he killed the Beast of Nurgle. So it looks like Dan could very plausibly score 4, potentially 5 here, depending on how much damage is done to those Plague Bearers. I think he needs to peel 5 more away. I don't believe he's activated both Thirsters yet, but I could be wrong on that. Looks like this may be a 4-player.
Yeah, but it's just like
See Paul pulling a substantial piece off of the Plague Bearers. Not what you want to see from the Nurgle side. I don't believe he got the +1 to wound spell off on the previous turn. Nevertheless, the Bloodthirsters are keyed in for plenty of damage on the Norm, so not impossible that Dan really laid the heat into them like that. No CP utilized to keep the Plague Bears there, which means Dan will score a full 5. What was what from, Sean? Were you asking about the damage to remove the Plague Bearers? I think part of it was the mortal wounds from the one Bloodthirster, and then the other one, or that same one has an artifact that stops wards, so Paul's not rolling his ward saves for those while he's within 3, and then the other Bloodthirster activating. Gotcha.
This looks good.
Does look good. 20 Plague Bearers down.
Yeah, but you know what? That doesn't necessarily equate to a win on the Khorne side.
Oh yeah.
Paul's going to take his turn. Those bloodthirsters are pretty fragile. So if he can get his big fat guys in on those bloodthirsters, it could be a serious problem for Dan, provided he can take out the boom thirster before it does quite a bit of damage. That's where all the threat lies. Angarath is on the boom thirster. The boom is on the boom thirster.
Yep.
If he can take out that linchpin, he has a chance.
Yep. And he still has 2 substantially sized models to do it with. The Glotkin is no slouch.
And they're not doing that bad. They're both pretty healthy right now. So
Yeah.
this is still a game.
Still lots of Age of Sigmar to be played. We're making our disease rolls here. It doesn't look like priority's been rolled yet. But we will see. This could be an opportunity for a pretty sizable double turn from Khorne. A 1 prio here could mean a lot of damage with no wards, just coming straight into the Glotkin. But still plenty of Nurgle on the other side of the board. Nurgle summoning army, as I mentioned, gaining points gradually over time. Looks like the priority may have been settled. Let me just check in on the table. Nurgle has elected to take the turn and has called Intimidate the Invaders for the battle tactic. Obviously, this could be a little bit tricky for the Khorne player to navigate. He'll want to do something to potentially tie up the Glotkin, keep those bloodthirsters safe. The wheel is currently on the no heroic actions. So that is going to be Plague of Misery. Next turn it will be on the nauseous Revulsion, which is going to subtract 1 from the charge rolls for enemy units that don't have the Nurgle keyword, and enemy units that do not have the Nurgle keyword can't finish a pile in closer. So Paul, next turn, will have a table-wide Sloppity Bile Piper effect for all of his Nurgle units, which is excellent. Great utility piece there. And again, you know, that wheel is baked into the Allegiance. Dan's not interacting with it. He can't kill the Nurgle wheel. He will have to play through it. But, of course, with the Plague Bears off the table at this point, makes things a little trickier for Paul to really utilize that. We'll have to see what happens. Paul proceeding with his casting.
Star Wars Legion players.
Curious to see what this Brick of 20 Blood Warriors does in the following turn. I mean, the good thing here about, for Dan, of Paul taking the top here is that Dan's on the back end of the turn. There could still be a potential double, and if he immediately protects those Bloodthirsters this turn, he could end up with 2 turns to capitalize. Dan using heroic willpower for an unbind. He does force it through. Paul is now attempting a Mystic Shield. It does go off. Previous, I believe, was the Gift of Disease spell. Oh, I did lie. It was Fleshy Abundance from the delay.
This makes 0 sense. And so I'm already upset about it. And
Paul thinking long and hard here through the hero phase. Obviously, the 20 plague bearers being removed so suddenly, not an ideal scenario for Nurgle. You really want to draw a few turns worth of value out of that unit, deny your opponent engagements, limit the amount of damage that they're doing. And the Bloodthirster said, cash me outside.
And I thought the same comes over, and I start explaining to him what was happening. He was playing a Sigmar. So fucking Dimitri comes up. Barrel chested like, why are you so upset, huh? What's going on? Why are you still upset?
Dan using Murderlust with his blood type to move forward.
And so
Great utility move there.
that's what this explaining the old course where I said, I just spent fucking 7 hours today at the store with the expectation that the only reason
That being said, while Paul's proceeding through his move phase, I do want to talk a little bit more about those blood tithe abilities. I mean, Murderlust is just one of several. Murderlust being an ability that you can choose to make a unit with d6 inches, and it can finish that move within 3 inches of any enemy unit. So a skilled player will utilize that to move into the opponent's space, tie them up, keep them engaged. A lot of space you can deny for your opponent with that. You can also spend Blood Tithe on it to use it 3 times at the end of each hero phase instead of only once, but you cannot pick the same unit to benefit from it more than once. So you can fan it out a little, move 3 units, super good. There is also, of course, the Spell Eater curse where you can spend Blood Tithe points to immediately after an enemy wizard has cast, but before you have tried to unbind, to automatically unbind a spell. But you cannot spend any Blood Tithe points at the end of the same hero phase if you've used it. That being said, there's also a few other notables. Brass Skull Meteor, kind of cool, I guess. It's not the most commonly used, but it is splash damage. It's 5 up for mortal wounds. You roll 8 dice. It is really cool sometimes when you use it on a unit that has a wound characteristic of 10 or more, or has 10 or more models, because you can add 2 to each of those rolls, making it 3+ mortal wounds. So you can lay 4 to 5 mortals into something anywhere on the battlefield using this Blood Tithe reward. Khorne also has a pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of this, and that, or rather, you pick a friendly Blades of Khorne unit within 3 inches of an enemy unit, and they can fight. You can add 1 to your Hatred of Sorcery rolls until the end of the battle. You can also improve Rend using Blood Tithe by 1 until end of turn. There's a fair few odds and ends where you can add 1 to attacks. You can do 2 up or D3 mortals for each enemy unit in the battlefield within 3 of a Blaze of Khorne unit. I did mention in passing that there is Hatred of Sorcery, which is a Blades of Khorne allegiance ability that will also allow Dan's units, when they're affected by a spell or an endless spell, to make a Hatred of Sorcery roll. On a 5 up, they ignore the spell, and you receive a Blood Tithe point. Super good. Great way to generate Blood Tithe. Makes Khorne very versatile against magic-heavy armies. Good example being Lumineth Realm Lords, generally. You see Paul coming in here. Looks like he has proceeded to shooting, and some of his models may be puking because Nurgle on Dan's forces here. Sean in the chat says that this is going to be a big turn. I agree wholeheartedly. This is definitely going to be a consequential turn. Paul trying to do something about these 2 Bloodthirsters before they present more of a threat than he can handle. The no ward artifact being incredibly dangerous. Paul's also working out his battle tactic. Looks like he currently has 4 units actually, wholly outside, so he has scored it. Looked like he had 3 for a moment there. So battle tactic secured, but obviously trying to secure a 5-pointer. He has taken the center objective from Dan by positioning both the Guo and the Plotkin there. We'll see what happens here. You never know, there could be another boom. Curious to see how these charges go. With that being said, we do have some results from other tables rolling in already. Dan Riker has beaten Ross McCune by a substantial margin. Dan is currently 3-0 in the event, so we will likely see him again tomorrow. He was on our stream round 1 playing a Helon list with Techless and some Kangaroos. Super fun list, running Ionis Cryptborn for hyper consistency on both the casting and praying front. In addition to that, Eric Jeanette has lost to Brian Kissel's Giants, our second Giant mirror of the weekend. So, super good result there. I believe that places Brian at 2-1, so still in the running for a 4-1 finish. Paul making some charge rolls. Looks like he has landed a 7 with the Lord of Afflictions, which appears to be enough to get him in. Beast of Nurgle coming in now. Appears to be an 8-inch or 9-inch charge rather. Beast of Nurgle coming in on the side here, going to lay down some mortal wounds. Paul really committing to try to move the Bloodthirster. See a 5 on the next charge roll. Paul spending a command point for a reroll, rolling into a 4. One of the laws of Warhammer dictates that a reroll charge must always be lower than the initial charge. I believe that may have been for the Glockton, which is a big miss on the charge. Seven is going to get the Great Unclean One into combat. However, the Glockton is going to be standing very still. Super difficult there. That front, obviously, the Glockton being reasonably punchy. But we will see what the duo and the Magickin of Nurgle Beast, as well as the Lord of Afflictions, are able to do here in combat. Oh, interesting. I think it had seemed that the Glockton had missed his charge, but it may actually have been that charges were attempted with the Beast of Nurgle that was at the top. Very good. Actually, so this now looks substantially better for Paul with both of those behemoths in there. Very, very big. One of the Bloodthirsters is now down, so I want to talk a little bit about that. That's from one of the Glockton's abilities. That is the Mountain of Loathsome Flesh. You can carry it out with him instead of any other monstrous rampage. You pick a unit within 3 inches and roll a die. On a 2-up, they take damage equal to the Mountain of Loathsome Flesh ability on the table. It's effectively a super stomp that you can use on monsters, and in this case, it does 5 damage. So Paul putting in some chip damage on the Boomthirster in previous turns, getting some mortals off of the Beast of Nurgle as well. Now that Bloodthirster has come off the table, meaning leaving its companion alone to figure out this board state. Looks like it may have been a Mountain of Loathsome Flesh followed by the declaration of an activation, and the players agreed that the model had been there. May have missed a roll on Paul's end too. That being said, Dan activating his Bloodthirster now, putting as much damage into it as possible. Is that a removed Guo. Failed war. This is a hell of a turn in terms of the amount of carnage that is taking place. We have seen a Bloodthirster and a Guo go down in the same combat phase here.
He has like 5 friends.
Let's see what other things are going on. I'm just going to take another peek at the table, get a table update, and just kind of get a table side view of the action currently. I will be right back once again.
I was on mute. It looks like the Boom Thirster went down. The Greater Unclean one got removed. And we have the Glockkin hanging out with the Bloodthirster, shaking hands. And he's got a chocolate pretzel. Nasty. How you feeling, Sean?
There's no excuse.
That's good. I'm glad. So it looks like some disease is going off. He's rolling off with the Bloodthirster. Bloodthirster's taking 2 mortal wounds. And we're ticking him up, but he's not dead. That's great. Are you going to stop by, Sean?
Alright, Josh.
See you later, man.
Congratulations on all this.
Yeah.
Make it one.
All right, good. I'll be looking forward to drinking with you tomorrow, Sean, because I'm going to wave my hand and Jedi mind trick Marcella into admitting you to the event. And then I'm going to pray to God that it works. You feeling real good? You're looking at me like a raccoon. You know, they turn their head and they look at you when you're about to hit them with the phone. Sean didn't feel well. That's why he didn't make it. What? Oh. All right, here we go. What do we got going on? Something flubbed. I think we're still in the hero phase. I got distracted by all these people talking to me. Man's picking up some dice. I don't know what he's doing. It looks like he's in trouble. I am the boss man. There are a lot of demands. I've been buying a lot of drinks for a lot of my volunteers today, and a lot of food. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is the ground stomping under the bloodthirster's feet, saving a lot of these mortal wounds. Targeting bronze fresh on the bloodthirster, so now he's got a 3-up save rather than a 4-up. You got pink rated. This is definitely an important turn for both Korn and Nurgle, but I think that so Korn is still in pretty good shape unless they're engaged down there with some kind of Nurgle unit. Let me look. I don't think they are. I think this is going to be rough turn for the Bloodthirster. I think the blade might have been better off on the Wrath of Cornthirster, but we'll see. So how much damage potential is a Glockkin against the 3-up save?
Let's take a peek. Glockkin, depending on profile, he will have somewhere between 1 and 4 Gurk tentacle attacks.
Just give me a number. What do we expect?
Let's see.
Against a single target with a 3-up save. Just a guess.
I'm going to say like somewhere between 6 and 12 damage.
Okay. It's a pretty high variable, but so there's a chance the Bloodthirster's going to die here. We did see the use of the heal prayer for 1 wound. Again, it's the reason I don't think it's a great choice. 1 wound is usually not going to be the make or break difference, and a blood tithe point would likely be better. 3 blood tithe points is 1/3 of a unit of 5 flesh hounds. Have a seat, Tyler.
Will do. That's right, give me my seat back.
I really don't know whose game this is still.
I think it really depends how this middle engagement goes.
I think the Bloodthirster's probably going to die.
Yeah, I think that the Blood Warriors are already in the wings, too.
And here's the attack. It looks like the Blood Warriors must be engaged by something. Otherwise, I believe they would have moved in to fight.
Yeah. We're in Dan's turn now.
Yes.
So, given that...
7 wounds at -2 against the Glockkin. These are D3 damage each. It might be D3 plus 2. I gotta double check. Oh, they're D3 damage each. An average roll.
Just updating the score there, Paul did accomplish his battle tactic in his turn and hold 1, 2, and more. We've got some Paul fans in the chat. We had a radio-free Warhammer. I probably butchered that name.
Radio-free Hammerhall.
Hammerhall. There you go.
So the Glockkin looks like it's going to live. And does the Glockkin have a healing mechanic? So this turn was probably a wash for Korn if this is the only engagement. Not great, especially if the Bloodthirster killed him. Okay, so I see what happened.
Did he use Blood Tithe?
He used Blood Tithe to fight. So actually, this is not bad.
Yeah,
especially if the Glockkin is cursed. I don't know. Is the Glockkin cursed? Is the Glotkin cursed? No? Okay. So the Glotkin is not cursed. So the Blood Warriors, while high volume attacks, are probably not as threatening as they would be if one of these units were cursed.
No, but we will see. We will see. I mean, let's think about this Bloodthirster too, right? Dan's going to get a second activation out of it. He no longer has the King of Blades artifact, so Paul's picking up boards again.
He just used the Blood Secretor. Everyone gets +1 attack.
Yep.
So he's definitely gearing up for an Alpha Strike with those Blood Warriors to get the most value out of his Blood Secretor. That's 20 +1 additional attacks from the Bloodthirster and the Blood Warriors. If he gets them all into combat, which is a whole nother ball.
Probably won't be that many unless he gets a big charge, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he gets like an 8+, he should be able to get a lot in because you do have the 3-inch pylon. An 8+ is going to get him all the way to the right side of that block.
One of our viewers in the chat has requested that Paul has his babies. We'll be sure to let Paul know.
Yes. Chat wants to have your babies, Paul. Someone in chat wants to have your babies.
No, they want you to have their baby. Ryan Price.
Oh, never mind.
Ryan Price.
Ryan Price.
Paul seems incredibly enthused about having additional children.
Yeah, he was actually he was indifferent. Like he would be okay with it.
Really? I thought he seemed pretty happy. Like his tone wasn't super jubilant, but his body language.
He said
enthused.
He said, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, but he was like, "Yeah, okay."
All right.
There was a little bit of jubilance in there.
Paul has a subtle way of communicating. Sometimes I miss the subtlety.
You know, it's a certain level of skill is required to read Paul's mannerisms. Probably something Dan has struggled with throughout this game.
Or maybe something that Ryan Price struggles with.
Potentially, perhaps he is misreading signals from Paul.
So it looks like we got a decent charge.
Yep. Nothing too flashy.
Probably a 6 or a 7 if I were to guess, based on what I'm seeing on that ruler. Or chosen or charging. These guys aren't as scary, but they can do some damage. Ooh, Drom's going in. I guess we're gonna go in. We're throwing the kitchen sink at our opponent here. Definitely, I don't know.
He can make it into the lower beast.
Yeah, he can make it into the lower beast and then do a pylon. I think he says he's gonna reroll it though. No. No, he's not. I don't know what Drom's profile is. I'm curious. I never see people play it. You definitely have to respect these like less efficient units.
Yeah.
Even though they're less efficient, doesn't mean that they won't kill you.
Yeah.
If your opponent even rolls reasonably well.
There is a value to chip damage and cheap units. Like Dan is being able to roll through combat, but Paul has taken the time to activate here and finally remove the second Bloodthirster. We're going to have to ask these Blood Warriors to do a lot of additional labor. We've seen the Bloodthirster go down.
I'm gonna order from a place called Dave's Gourmet Burgers.
Don't tell Sean that. He was mad that we weren't going to Applebee's.
Applebee's makes a steak that looks like a sock.
I told him Applebee's was canceled.
It is canceled.
Yeah, but not quite as canceled as Chili's.
So let's look at the Dave's Gourmet Burgers menu.
You heard the man, Sean. Applebee's makes steaks that look like socks.
Like a large burnt sock made out of meat. It's like they came out of a bag, shaped like a sausage. And
It's like, you ever get those chicken nuggets from McDonald's and they always have the one that's the boot? That's an Applebee's steak, man.
Dude. Yeah. Does Dave's have riblets? I don't think so. I don't think Dave would ever make riblets. So check out this menu here. The onion ring tower power burger.
That looks like a heart attack. I like it.
Yes. There's a lot of interesting burgers. The big juicy loaded.
A handcrafted Angus beef patty loaded with cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle, and secret sauce.
That's just a regular burger. Let's go to a real burger though.
I appreciate that Dave lets me know that it's big and juicy.
This is their flagship burger.
The Juicy Lucy flagship burger. Cheese sealed inside the Angus meat and cooked until the cheese is melted. Temperature is not asked. Loaded with lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle, and secret sauce. It is recommended to add chef's touch to help enhance the flavor.
You want the chef's touch?
I'm worried with the chef's touch here.
No, the chef's touch just makes it, it enhances the flavor.
I'll take some enhanced flavor.
You want the chef's touch?
Yeah.
You want the Juicy Lucy? Do you really? I've had it. It's fucking good.
It does look pretty good.
Dude,
I
it
would
doesn't
try it.
even look like that. It looks better than that.
I would try it.
I wish he took better photos because his burgers look better than the photos. Alright. There's a bison Juicy Lucy.
Dude, bison burgers are so good.
Check this out. The Marsala Chef Burger. American Indian fusion. Do you like chicken tikka marsala?
I do.
Dude.
I have a bunch of friends back home that are huge Indian food fans as well. They would love that.
Oh wait, yeah. Oh wait, no, it's not marsala. That's not chicken tikka marsala, is it? No. Wait, maybe. It's fucking delicious. I've had it.
How many drinks have you had?
How many of these?
How many drinks have you had today? Not enough?
None. I
Enough?
just really like these burgers.
You sure this burger? I just can't do the way you're pitching it.
Dude, I fucking love. No, here's the thing. I'm in like event organizer mode where it's like, get excited, fuck yeah, prizes, yeah, I'm gonna sell everything, I'm gonna sell this experience, and it's like I'm in that mode, but I'm also trying to order dinner, so it's really weird.
I like Juicy Lucy.
You want Juicy Lucy?
Juicy Lucy.
I'm feeling it, dude. I'm gonna get Juicy Lucy.
It comes with fries, right?
No, it doesn't. I'll order as fries.
If you could, yeah.
You want me to order the aged black fries? Fucking good.
Whatever you think is good, I trust your judgment.
Let me tell you what, chat. You are missing out. Dave's Gourmet Burgers. Look them up. They're in downtown Schenectady. Probably some of the best burgers I've ever had. We're about to experience heaven. We're going to eat them on stream. I'm ordering them right now.
That's so funny. Diving back in here, since the Bloodthirster has been removed, we have seen, I believe, the Blood Warriors activate, lay some damage into the clock tin, but not quite putting him down yet. We did see some of Dan's units charge into the Lord of Afflictions and the Beast of Nurgle. However, it appears that they have been removed in the time since. We'll get an update on Dan's battle tactics shortly here, but it does look like he has run into a mountain of flesh. We have not seen too much summoning from the Magakin yet, but I'm sure we're going to see some soon. And of course, with the steadily decreasing output from the Blades of Corn, things might get a little hairy for Dan's side of the board. Dan has scored 1-2 more in Battle Tactic.
Star Wars Legion players.
Putting the score to 10-10.
Wow.
He has gone to roll his prio and he's rolled a 4. Let's see what Paul's got. 3. And is weighing the options here. Aiming for Paul, this is beginning to be a problem. Dan has elected to take it. And for his battle tactic, he has called Slay the Sorcerer, calling the Glotkin, trying to finish the job this turn, score another 5, put his opponent's 2 main threats out of commission. The Guo is off the table. There's still plenty of Beasts of Nurgle left and a handful of other units as well. Paul can summon some stuff. He has got points in the tank. I will get a check on the Glotkin wound in just a moment here. Notably, Paul has ticked his wheel up to the no island, which is going to spell a little bit of trouble for the output from the Blood Warriors. He will be missing some attacks in the back rank. With that, I'm going to step away. Let's get a wound count on the Glotkin, and I'll take a peek at those other models that Paul has damaged as well. As an update, the Glotkin appears to have 3 wounds remaining. He is on 17. Looks like he may have just taken an additional 1 as well. Dan proceeding through his hero phase here. The Beast of Nurgle that is to the left of the Glotkin on your screen is at 3 wounds taken, and the Lord of Afflictions is on 4 wounds taken. So Paul's in a little bit of trouble here. He's taking a lot of damage, does not have a lot of units left to play with on board, and if these 2 heroes go down, his only summoning points are going to be those trees. So although he can still summon, put some units on the board, get back in the game, he's going to have to find a way to press forward and get a little bit closer to the action. For a slower army like Nurgle, not a position that you want to be in. And given that the Glotkin has 2 left, the Slay the Warlord, it looks like that actually is it for the Glotkin. I believe Dan may have used Blood Tithe for the damage ability.
Coming back. Holy shit.
With that now, here's Dan proceeding into the movement phase. Big here because he may be able to clean up both of those 2 remaining armies. So with that, that is going to accomplish Dan's battle tactic. In addition to that, he is currently hold 2 and hold more, and it doesn't appear to be changed right here. So I'm going to go ahead and tick up his score prematurely, but it's still Dan's turn, so we'll resolve everything else through here. Dan moving the Furies up in the top part of the board. Don't believe there's too many more battle tactics to get a lot of value out of them, but he has not called Intimidate the Invaders yet, so that will be one thing to race for with them. This game definitely feels, although we are in battle round 3, like it is beginning to wind down. I think in terms of Paul's potential get back, he might be running a tad bit behind. Paul currently on 12 summoning points. So looking at the list of what he can summon currently, he can summon a Poxbringer, a Beast of Nurgle unit with 1 model, another Gnarlmaw, a Nurgling Swarm, Sloppity Battle Piper, or a Spoilpox Scrivener. Obviously, all these fairly good, well, most of these fairly good units, but none of them are game breakers here. At least not individually. A lot needs to happen here. That being said as well, even with what he does put down, the Feculent Gnarlmaw in the back, it's a fair way away from the action. He needs to move those things up forward. It looks like the Lord of Afflictions potentially could stick around this turn, though. Dan is not able to pile in. He has made his charge into the Beast of Nurgle. But that being said, killing the Beast is about as good anyway. Curious to see how this combat phase goes. The Claws of Karanak on the bottom side of the table have charged into the Beast of Nurgle on the center right objective. Beast of Nurgle strolling along.
I can lose 7 games of MCP in while I'm playing MCP. I can win a game of Legion and not win.
Again, getting through 2 at -1. Core conversion on the moon balls there. Putting a little bit of chip damage on the Beast of Nurgle. One thing worth noting is that he has not completely enclosed that unit from the looks of it. So the Beast of Nurgle may still have a path to retreat and charge. Unclear, I'll get a closer look when I do my in-between round table update here. Got some excitement at one of the neighboring tables. Sean O'Shaughnessy rolling his dice, the world's most unlucky Warhammer player, praying for some divine interventions we can make a charge. And Whirlwind slamming those dice into his dice tray, rolling the charge. He was very excited. Appears to be having a bloodbath of the game with Ogres, both him and Hunter at the 3-0 tables currently. Oscar on screen previously, still playing with Marcella at this point, so we'll see how that game turns out shortly. When I do my round around table update, I might peep a couple tables. Dan Riker beating Ross, who's playing a Mortis Praetorian's Morgas list. So Dan currently locked in for 3-0. Both of these players currently X1, but of course 4-1, an incredibly respectable finish, and many 4-1 players have landed best overall as well. So definitely still in contention. Rolling through the combats, looks like the Bulwarks have placed some additional damage on the Beast of Nurgle, with the Lord of Afflictions piling in here to lay down some damage.
Hey, Jared, I'm gonna go get the food. I need you to stay here. Yeah.
Josh is going to get the Juicy Lucy burger. Hopefully we'll arrive before end of round so I can explain to you all how delicious it is. Another mortal wound coming out from this activation into the Beast of Nurgle. I believe it has 7 wounds taken at this stage. I believe there are 8 samples. Could be wrong on that.
The other end of the 2 APS I ran pretty much as soon as he was going to get back. He's going to hit 34. Because I was looking at him. I was trying to think about because I have to go to the recruit. So like, I know what Ravens. He got most of them.
There are 8 wound models. That Beast of Nurgle is on a single wound remaining. Sean pointing out in the chat that other Sean is likely to shout a "come on" in the middle of his game when he fails a roll. That is 100% true. stepping up, scoring the battle tactic, 1, 2, and more, not clearing off the Beast of Nerf or the Lord of Affliction, but taking the Glotkin out this turn, which is definitely an important thing to do. So we will see what transpires here in Paul's final. Again, the wheel is on no pilot.
I ordered 6 Juicy Lucy's, 3 large blackened aged French fries, and a butter chicken.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
It's going to be good, but it's not going to be here for 45 minutes. So unless this stream ends like late, you aren't going to see us enjoy
You don't
it.
want to go live for the Juicy
I
Lucy?
would love to, but the game may end too early. It's literally 2 blocks away, so I'm going to drive out and get it as fast as I can.
That's
so
okay.
we can have the Juicy
We'll
Lucy.
tell them about it tomorrow on stream.
It's not the same,
That's true.
but we're going to try.
We're gonna try.
gonna try.
We'll do the best we can.
I ordered.
And that's all what we encourage all of our players here to do at the Golden Sprue GT. I butchered that sentence I meant to do here. That being said, proceeding on with Paul's turn, I am going to take this moment to just get a table check and get the battle tactic, but also to take a peek at some of the remaining damage characteristics and see how things are going. All right, we are back. A couple table updates from some of the other tables. Currently, Hunter and Sean both 3-0 playing against one another. Sean appears to be poised to pick up the game. He just blizzarded a fresh Stonehorn clean off the table. So looking pretty good from him there. Hunter seems to think that it may be over from the current board position, but they are continuing to play. Never know what could happen there, so we'll see. There are still a few models on the table from Hunter's side, and a single Stonehorn is a lot of oomph. So more to come there. Table update from the other undefeated table, Marcella and Oscar. Currently, Marcella is up 1 point, 10-9. He appears to be in center board with most of his miniatures intact. Marcella still has 2 sets of 10 bounders, though, so it's not like she is without counterpunch. And I believe it is her turn currently in the top of the 3rd battle round. So more to come there. Coming back to this table now, it appears that Paul called Glory be to the Grandfather for his battle tactic, which is kill more enemy units than enemy units have died this turn, but with the Beast of Nurgle dropping from the get-go here, it appears that he may have dropped that battle tactic.
Oh, here it is.
Now Paul retreating and charging with the Beast of Nurgle. So we'll see what happens here. Even if Paul does kill the Claws of Karanak here, though, it doesn't appear that he is in a position to score this tactic. Unless he makes the other big charge with the other Beast of Nurgle. He does make a big 10-inch charge, getting into the foot hero after summoning off of the Lord of Afflictions that retreated from the Blood Warriors, which is big. This could give him an opportunity to pick up this battle tactic.
Still, because it's a battery,
Paul still finding opportunities to finish the turn with 5 points, so keeping in this game on a scoring front. He is running low on summoning points and models on the table, but he is slowly but surely chipping away from Dan's forces. Bloodsecrator does still appear to be on the table. He has used his once per game buff. That being said, the Bloodsecrator is a totem, and so he can rally those Blood Warriors now that they are no longer engaged on 4 ops, which means he'll be able to return potentially up to 5 Blood Warriors per rally here. Could be very crucial when it has become a battle of attrition. Paul attempting to zone Dan out here, and Dan attempting to break through some of these remaining tanky units of his lower output. Some damage coming out from the foot hero now. I believe that is Grom on the left side there. Putting some damage on the Beast of Nurgle.
like if you just want to show up, you don't gotta get the super swag. You just want to show up. Like you still.
Paul has cleaned up the Claws of Karanak now, so he's waiting to see if he can pick up Grom on the opposite side here. He does 2 mortal wounds, which does remove Grom from the board, and that will accomplish Glory to the Grandfather. So Paul will score 1-2 more, and then a battle tactic, keeping firmly in this game, scoring 5 more points. Very careful play from Paul, an experienced Nurgle pilot, playing this army for a long time, and to top it all off, he has won the prio over Dan Bergs here, so he's going to have an opportunity to converge on this unit of Blood Warriors and make some magic happen before anything serious occurs on that front. That being said, now Rampant Disease is going to take place. Disease rolls are going to get a +1, which is going to be very huge for the output for the Nurgle army here as he comes back in and starts laying down some damage. I do want to talk a little bit about the disease mechanic. Basically, at the end of the movement phase and combat phase, you give a disease point to enemy units within 3 inches of any friendly Magickin of Nurgle units. Units can have up to 7 disease points, and then at the start of the Battle Shock phase, for each disease point that an enemy unit has, they roll a singular die roll. For a 4-up, they take a mortal wound. And then at the end of the Battle Shock phase, the number of disease points goes back to 1. So the idea being to just apply residual damage, and of course this turn, more will be applied than is the norm due to that +1 from the Magikin of Nurgle wheel.
Well, I was being sneaky. But he's got there enough for yeah, we'll pull him off.
Paul's sorting through his battle tactics here, figuring out his next move. It's called Led into the Maelstrom, which seems reasonable. His finest ouring, the Lord of Afflictions. Paul really needs to get into this unit of Blood Warriors and take them off the board to have a clean shot at finishing birds. Looks like they may have forgotten some disease rolls of the previous turn, so Berg's allowing him to just run through those really quickly, get the board state corrected. Corn's been using a lot of their Blood Tithe abilities as this game has rolled on here. They're a little light on Blood Tithe. We'll get the exact number after this turn. Very clean game from both players here, both of them playing to their outs. Particular shout out to Paul playing his Magikin, who's done an excellent job seeking outs here, pushing through a lot of the output from Bloodthirsters, removing threats from his opponent's board, truly playing an excellent point-for-point attrition game. Looking across the tournament hall, eyeing a couple of results more that have come in. Rochelle Miller has lost to Mike Mullis. Mike winning with his Gutbusters over the Seraphon. Jeff Weed has triumphed over James Kent. James Kent was on our stream round 1 piloting Cool Boys. Jeff Weed playing Korn this weekend, so perhaps a contender there. Jeff is a very well-known hobbyist, very skilled hobbyist at that. Excellent paint job, very fun opponent, nice, all-around nice guy. Can't say enough nice things about Jeff, always a pleasure. But definitely a contender for best overall when it comes to the final rankings if he finishes with a 4-1 here. So 2-1, hanging on there. Hopefully tomorrow he can pick up 2 big wins and make some magic happen. I think we may be about to witness okay, good. It seemed for a moment that Paul was simply going to charge into both units of Furious, which of course would activate and then retreat, denying his battle tactic, but he has pulled the other Beasts of Nurgle around on the bottom right corner, giving him a potential chance to charge into Littlefoot Heroes. That being said, the hope needs to be that the Beast of Nurgle does not remove the hero, because Harpies will not be there at the tail end of his turn, which means that he's going to have to solve for the difference here. It looks like he may be changing gears, reorienting towards the Blood Warriors, and going for a summon. Looks like he might be summoning a Sloppity Vilepiper. This is going to be excellent, giving him an opportunity to go in, mitigate a lot of damage from the Blood Warrior unit, tie it up, deny additional rallies. Lord of Afflictions making in on the charge. Piece of Nurgle making it in, landing at the half-inch mark. Going to try to deny as many attacks to Dan as possible. Piece of Nurgle making it in on the opposite side there. Solid 9-inch charge from the looks of it. Maybe he might have also rolled the Mortals there as well. Either way, making it in. Other Beast of Nurgle charging into the Furies up top. Here come the Mortals out of the different Beasts of Nurgle. Paul probably trying to low roll here in the lower right corner. That way his hero is stuck in for the battle tactic. See how things go here. It seems like Paul has a pretty reasonable shot of scoring his battle tactic here and picking up 5 points again, putting him at 20. He's in a position currently, depending on how the final cryo goes, that stand a reasonable chance at accomplishing his grand strategy too. He'll need to get some damage onto the, or rather some disease points onto the Furies. Dan has already accomplished his grand strat, which is Slaughter of Sorcery, which has removed all wizards from the table. Harpies are leaving now with a sneaky little maneuver. Dan has pulled onto the objective, denying Paul an objective. This might hold Paul to 4. Yeah, Paul will still get to pile in with the Lord of Afflictions, so he'll be able to pile in backwards here, put some damage into those Furies, and maybe take that objective back. We'll see. Definitely a slick maneuver from Dan. Eric has appeared in the view of the camera partially after suffering a horrendous defeat at the hands of his opponent. A truly shameful loss. Well, going in now, he's coming in with the Beast of Nurgle, trying to see how much damage he can do. This is very much a big turn for him in terms of what he is trying to accomplish. Second unit of Fury is definitely looking to activate and get out of there as well. Gonna activate, go grab that top objective. This now is where things get really precarious because this might hold Paul to 3 points.
Yeah, take some.
Really needs the Lord of Afflictions a decent heat into the Furies on the left side.
Like 3 or 4. I gotta have some for other people.
I actually have like a stack of I have a drawer
Of those exact things.
Lord of Afflictions has piled in. Let's see what he does.
If you have a ton,
Paul activating.
Giant
hits
barrel.
on
I've
the
been
first
looking for
volley.
giant barrel. Barrel, you
Wounding
need a barrel.
3 as well, converting the same number of dice, which is always a welcome sight when you are the attacking player. And it appears he has removed 2 Blue Furies. Notably now, Paul has that objective still, so he will still likely have to at the end of his turn, scoring 4 points. But second volley does come in. It has lost 4 models, Furies being low bravery as well, likely to run no hero in the range to save them. So Paul will hold that there. Curious to see if the Furies on top hold it together, but there is that potential there. The LOA does not have stench. It is a naked Lord of Afflictions. It is simply there to deep strike and nothing else. There were no flies at start of game to run through it. I'll actually really quick, for those of us who are just joining now, run through the list again really quickly while these players are rolling through this combat. We are in the top of 4. But Paul is running the Glotkin. He's running Gifted Disease and Rancid Visitations. He's also running Sloppity Bile Piper, a Naked Lord of Afflictions, a Great Unclean One as his general with the Nurgling Infestation command trait, the Bile Sword, and Flaming Weapon and Fleshy Abundance as spells. 4 Beasts of Nurgle, 1 Reinforced Brick of Plague Bears, which we saw get taken off by the Bloodthirster early in the game when there was no ward due to the artifact. And he's playing the Befouling Host to have 2 trees on board. So as it stands, he is holding things together reasonably well in score, but Dan has been slowly piecing away his pieces. Moving on to Dan's list, Dan is playing a Blades of Corn Reapers of Vengeance list, so he is getting +1 to blood side from killing heroes, as well as getting +1 to hit against heroes from demons. But he is running a Wrath of Corn Berserker, or Bloodthirster rather, which lets him activate another monster after the general has activated here. That model is his general. Command trait, Firebrand. It's going to make him a priest with 2 prayers. He has Heal and Bloodbind. Bloodbind being incredibly powerful. We saw it used to great effect earlier in the game with Sloppity Bile Piper to isolate him, pull him into combat, beat him up, kill him, remove him from the table, giving Dan the opportunity to make a lot of aggressive plays early on, do some damage to Paul's forces. In addition to that, he has the Halo of Blood to always strike first. Dan also running the Slaughter Priest with Killer Instinct and Curse, as well as the Pouch of Mole Dust, Millstone Adornment, the Rumgor Ritualist as well, included in this list with Heal and Bronze Flesh for +1 to save, also being able to give Dan's Mortals a buff. And then rounding out the heroes, he has Drom. Drom has Unholy Flames for additional Rend and Blood Sacrifice. And then he also has, lastly, but certainly not least, the Bloodthirster with Insensate Rage, which we have seen splash out mortals this game and do a plethora of damage. It's also holding Argath, the King of Blades, so there are no wards while the unit is within 3 inches of the Bloodthirster. Moving on to the battle line, Dan is bringing 20 Blood Warriors, 2 units of 8 Claws of Karanak, and then 2 units of Furies, and of course he has the accompaniment for Drom, which is the Gore Chosen of Drom, which is a 2-model cheapy unit that you get alongside Drom. And then lastly, he has the Hexgorger Skulls and the Wrath Axe. This battle plan, of course, also presenting some unique quandaries for each player, given that you can deploy almost, well, all the way up to the line, but each player in this game deploying almost on the line. Incredibly close to each other. Dan using the movement phase from the blood, or rather the movement from the Blood Tithe to tie up Paul in the early game, force him to make some moves, flare out, and then when Paul finally did get in, he was able to remove the Bloodthirsters, but the Bloodthirsters were punching back. He removed the Guo. He was able to remove the Glotkin soon after that. Definitely been a tight game, very fighty game, given the battle plan. Looks like Paul made out with 2 objectives. And it looks like he may have dropped the battle tactic. That being said, I am going to take this moment here to get a couple table updates for us, and I will be right back. All right, checking back in. Paul did not drop the battle tactic, and he was able to hold 1, hold 2, which is going to put him up to 19 points. It's Dan's turn now for his battle tactic. He has called No Cowards Among Us. This is a Blades of Corn specific battle tactic that he completes if all friendly Blades of Corn units on the battlefield are within 8 inches of enemy units at the end of the turn. So we'll see how that pans out for Dan here. It seems like a relatively safe call from this board position. That being said, a couple other important bits here. Paul has realized that he could deny Dan's grand strat if he was able to summon a wizard. So it seems that he is trying to plan ahead for that. The players are talking a lot about the game state, though. There is potential here that they will begin to talk things through. I think Paul is running a little shy on battle tactics here from his perspective. But the game is incredibly tight. I would hope that they at least work it through. It looks like Dan may have actually just called the tactic, stayed put, and then given Paul the turn. That puts Dan up to 20. An interesting bit here. I mean, that's pretty important because that way Paul can't summon a wizard on the final turn and turn off Dan's grand strategy. So now Dan will have an opportunity to respond to what comes out of Paul's side of the table. A couple other table updates. The Pure Shona Shaughnessy has won in his game against Hunter Armstrong, effectively tabling the monster trucks and what looked like it was a pretty bloody game. On the other hand, checking out the other 3-0 table, Marcella and Oscar are still playing. Currently, the Goomspike Gits have encircled the forefront of Oscar's army, but Catacross is still healthy. They still appear to be firmly in the mid-game, so we'll have to see how things go. It definitely seems like it's been a combat-heavy and somewhat slow game, so TBD on what happens there. That being said, incredibly curious for the finish of this game. I think this has been one of our tightest thus far on screen.
You're at 12. 17 went down 10. 5 went down whatever 5 went.
Paul's thinking through his battle tactics. Currently, the Nurgle wheel is on Unnatural Vitality, giving Nurgle heroes a reward of 4+. Oh, actually, no. With the passing, it might be on the Vigor. I will confirm that with the players, actually. I did not get the chance to see Paul's wheel because I did not think to check it. I was mistaken earlier about the wheel, the corrupted regrowth being that final stage Paul has landed on here. So he is on that stage currently in the final turn. So he is getting extra CP.
So I'm going to go for Nurture the Null. So I have to destroy this one.
Actually, no, I think I had that correct. He just has that. I think he was just stressing that that's what he had just resolved. Seems to really be thinking things through here. Dan giving away the turn here.
I get 2 extra electrics.
A really, really strong play coming out of Dan. You know, of course, he's looking at the potential of being able to score another 5-point turn, but I mean, even with that in mind, knowing that there is the potential for Paul to easily deny his grand strat here has him on edge. I believe Paul does have enough to make the summon of a wizard. Probably throw it to God in his way. Paul here ranking along through his hero phase. Moving some movement. Uh-oh, is that who I think it is in the chat? We have the Megakin of Nurgle against the Blades of Corn. For the final battle tactic, the Megakin of Nurgle is called Nurture the Gnarlmaw. So he has to pick one of his feculent Gnarlmaws that's within 12 inches of enemy units, and he completes it if the Gnarlmaw is more than 12 inches away from all enemy units at the end of the turn. So likely trying to kill those Furies that are on the rightmost objective. I know who you are, Basil. I recognize that username anyway.
Basil quit slacking off and get his RTB game played. I don't want to hear nonsense.
Shaughnessy wants me to tell you, Basil, to quit slacking off and get your Release the Beast game played. Wow, Sean O'Shaughnessy, you do not need to use that type of language towards Basil, the nicest man in Warhammer. That was truly shameful language from one of our 3L competitors here. Absolutely disgraceful that he would say something like that to Basil. I will likely report him to the judge. All in jest, of course. Sean, known in particular for his eccentric personality and his very high-spirited manner at the table. And probably the Warhammer opponent I have played against the most ever. I probably play against Sean every single week. Currently 3-0, triumphing over his opponents today. Curious to see how he does tomorrow. He will be potentially squaring off against Lumineth Realm Lords, Teclis and Ionis, or the winner of Marcella and Oscar's game, which looks like it could be anyone's game to win at this point. Dan going for the redeploy and increasing the charge from the Beast of Nurgle from a 3-inch charge to a 4-inch charge. The Lord of Afflictions, Jumin, down at the bottom left corner here. This game incredibly tight. Paul looking for an out here and a way to deny the grand strat on Dan Bergs here and hold together his last handful of points. Obviously Dan up a point right now, going last in the game, so he will have the final word on what scoring takes place. I think Paul is now going for a challenge. Oh, Paul almost forgetting to summon. He has summoned a wizard. But missing the charge from the Beast of Nurgle, so potentially a dropped battle tactic here. Players just correcting the Lord of Afflictions movement there, flying over the building, landing alongside the garrison. Five is going to come up short, charging into the garrison here. We're going to see what happens. Some clapping in the background stemming from one of the kill team tables. I think they may have just wrapped their day, if not their event. One, two, three on the charge. Not enough. Paul resolving his charge mortals now.
You told me go fuck yourself like 10 times. I just kept in the beginning. I just kept rolling really high.
He has removed the Blood Secretor on the charge.
The one roll was 9 dice. Looks like a longer beard. I got a real long beard.
I was really
See here, it's looking a little ugly for Paul's side of the board here. those failed charges into the Furies. They were long bomb charges, and that does look like it is going to cost him that battle tactic with the Feculent Narwhal.
So it's all 4 of them at red 1. Fours with the conqueror, and he fails all of them. Or if you can do it, yeah, mortal back is 1 mortal back, another blood.
Sean O'Shaughnessy
Oh.
haggling the commentator on the side. Paul's grand strategy
Oh, it looks
is
like Basil rescheduled his game.
the other. It's the Nurgle grand strat to give everybody 1 disease point. So
I love you, Sean Island.
Sean O'Shaughnessy wanted to indicate to Sean Allen that he does, in fact, love him. I believe the models that are on the outskirts of the table on the bottom left and right are currently not alive. So I believe Paul is positioned to score his grand strat. That is true. Dan could totally summon something. That was the other bit of gamesmanship here. Obviously, both players wanting to angle for being on the bottom of the turn this round so that they could use their summons to make their opponent's life difficult. Although it would be absolutely hilarious if they both successfully summoned and denied each other's grand strats. Paul notably scoring 3 points on that turn, but he did in fact drop the tactic. Still a very close. Dan Bergs is seeking out a battle tactic. He's working out a plan, assessing the board. Both players deep in thought examining the board state. Obviously, this is the last turn of round 5. These two are playing for a fair few marbles. 4-1 finish is ample opportunity to finish best overall. So, alright, Dan has not yet used Intimidate the Invaders, which he will fairly easily score. He already has the Furies outside. We'll have the Blood Warriors outside shortly.
Dude, is the stream still
The
going?
stream is still going.
Oh my god,
Do we have the Juicy
we
Lucy's?
got 3 Juicy Lucy's. We're gonna eat all of them. We're gonna share them. We're gonna take bites out of the same burger at the same time until all 3 are gone.
We're going to take bites out of each side of the burger and progressively get
Yeah.
closer until it's all
Until
gone.
it's all gone. Like chicken. Oh,
So 5s is going to be 2 mortal wounds.
what? 7:30.
Boom.
Get ready to die.
I'm so excited for this. Oh my
Those
goodness.
are the black fries.
These fries.
Taste one.
Look at these bad boys. Completely blackened seasoned fries.
They look like Cruella de Vil's evil black fingers.
They are very good.
All the utensils are awesome.
I gotta grab some utensils for my folks.
They're
out.
very deeply seasoned, but W.
You will need some of these.
Thank you. Normally not someone to eat on stream, but the tournament organizer has insisted that I eat and advertise this business on stream, so here we are. Dan working out the summon, dropping a unit on the board.
Well, actually, when you moved,
They did move. You can redeploy if you'd like. Okay, I'll keep the 6 for what it's worth.
There's nobody currently in the garrison, so it appears that Dan still has his battle tactic rolling on here.
I will get the charge. Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah, we'll try. I'll take the battle tactic. Let's try. So I'll score.
Oh, glad you waited for me, dude.
You told me to eat it.
No, I'm glad you waited for me to bite the burger. We gotta bite it on stream.
Yeah. No, I just ate the fries, but you told me to.
Dude, yeah, definitely try the fries, dude.
They would have been either way.
I got them as they came off the grill, so they're still fucking warm. This burger, though,
We are about to dive into the Juicy Lucy.
fuck, look at this.
Very impressive.
That's right next to his face. It's like the size of his head.
And I have a big head. Oh my goodness, this is an incredibly righteous, juicy burger.
What?
It is absolutely filled to the brim with an assortment of toppings.
It's like if a boomthirster rolled 4 6s to wound in my mouth.
It's juicy and it is Lucy.
Ugh. First thoughts. What are your first thoughts, Tyler?
It's good. It's got a lot to it, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's like a messy burger, but you embrace it.
He wants to see the burger.
Beautiful. You can't really see the inside so well, but it's got some onions, some peppers, some good seasoning.
There's
some nice melted queso.
Look
some
at
lettuce.
pickles the size of your eyeballs are
This is
inside.
true.
Oh.
And it looks like these players have wrapped the result. Dan picking up the last battle tactic.
That bag right there.
Dropping his
No, go around this
grand
way.
You're summoning.
strap. And with that, that is
It's good though,
the
right?
result.
There,
Final
on the
score,
bottom of it,
gentlemen?
there's a million paper towels.
23-22.
Can you give us
Oh,
half?
interesting. Okay. Did you drop you didn't get the wizard, so you dropped that, but did you drop the battle tactic? Did you drop the tactic?
No, I got the
Okay.
I only got one zone.
One objective.
Here, Tyler.
Thank you.
Oh man, an onion fell on your OnlyFins.
I am going to boot you in a moment because we do owe Dan his post-game interview.
Yo, I'm all about it. What do you think?
They're good.
3 seconds.
It'll be 30 seconds.
Starting a weird stream now.
What?
She's starting a weird stream now.
All right. 23-22.
Out of like
Incredibly close
all
game.
the burgers you ever had, where does this fall? Top 5?
This is a top 5 burger.
Yeah.
It is a top 5 burger. It is incredibly well seasoned. It's very good.
This is raised.
Now, we have talked about our burgers, but now we are ready to talk about Dan Bergs, who is going to come on over in just a moment here, and we are going to give him a nice post-game interview where we will talk less about the Juicy Lucy and talk about how he's feeling after overcoming what was a fairly difficult game state. Definitely impressive play from both sides here. Paul really hauling ass, playing to his outs, doing a fantastic job of finding those tactics.
Literally between these last 2 rounds,
Oh man.
I definitely did not get seasoning on my Wicked Dicey jersey from the Black and Fries. Somewhere, somehow, Corey McKinney is completely aware and screaming at the sky. That being said, we'll give these two players another moment here to clean up. It looks like most of the games have settled at this stage with only 2 remaining. Marcella and Oscar are still playing, both in the XO bracket. And Bob is still playing against Fire Slayers. Many of you know the legendary Bob. He needs no full name. He is a hero among us, and he is currently trying to vanquish the Lava Dwarves. So with that, many of the players now, you probably hear the noise level has come down, but they are beginning to work their way out of the tournament hall. Star Wars has completed their day 1 of the event. Most of the Age of Sigmar players have filed out. This evening there will be some after-party activities, including some trivia and some other board games. I know I mentioned earlier the Bluey board game tournament taking place at the DaBoyz Golden Sprue GT.
Yeah.
W.
Big W.
What is this from? Who wrote that?
Dude, I don't know who wrote that, but I dropped an onion on it and I ate it after.
That's really funny. Someone, while I was away from the desk, left a onlyfans.com/bushy reading a slip of paper. I will confirm to the chat that I do not currently have an OnlyFans. I am a happily married man, and if I were to have an OnlyFans, it would probably just be Warhammer stuff. Sorry to disappoint the audience here. And the fans that are here in person supporting at the event. Give these players just a few more minutes to tidy things up. We will be back tomorrow as well. We're going to have 2 additional rounds of coverage, both from our undefeated tables, including the finals game to determine a potential 5-0, so super excited for those. At the end of day 1, we will have 3 XO individuals. It will be Dan Riker, who is playing Lumineth Realm Lords with Ionis and Teclis, Sean O'Shaughnessy, who is playing a Big Wild list running 20 of the new Ardboys, and either Marcella Halou or Oscar Savasio, who is running OCR Bone Reapers. He was on stream prior. Marcella, also paying a special guest visit to stream prior, is playing Gloomspike Gits with 30 Wing Drop Pounders, a devastating cavalry unit that she applies ample buffs to and just mows down her opponents. But it looks like Oscar is holding firm. I was over there a few minutes ago, and it does still appear to be anyone's game in the mid-game, but they should be wrapping up in the next probably 15 to 20 minutes or so. Yeah, whenever you're ready. Yeah. Come on in, dive in. Yep, I got one right here for you. Josh kept it nice and warm for you.
The Age of Sigmar events, and they've been kicking off with 8 players regularly.
Berg's coming over in just a moment before he wraps up his packing. Tell us what he's thinking.
And that's where most of our local guys go to have the original. And then you go up north to Saratoga Express shop.
Oh my god.
Chat, please welcome this beautiful bald man
What's
to
up,
the
chat?
stream.
What's up, Ryan Moskoff?
How are you feeling? That was
that's a good game.
yeah.
That was
that was a very good game.
We played real hard. Defense held up.
Yeah.
Football terms.
Yes, football.
Yes. Sports balls everywhere.
Yes.
A lot of balls.
Very close game though.
Okay.
Came down
It was,
to
a point. Yeah.
just
Sean?
single point. I did apply the score in the wrong spot, which I am going to correct now because it should show that you are the winner. But
Fucking amateur.
talk us through your thinking. How did you feel about
So
coming to this matchup?
I felt okay because I turned off wards, which is big, and I have big boomly bloodthirsters. They
Yeah.
just died really fast.
You did do some devastation with them
Yeah,
before they
yeah.
went down, though. You got a nice big boom early game.
Yeah, 48 mortal wounds.
Yeah, so you are beyond the 100 mark for this event.
Yep,
3
so
rounds
far,
in.
so
Yeah.
far. Yeah, no, I think the Always Strikes First boom, Wrath of Corn into the Boom Thirster with no ward is pretty good against Paul's list. Like, it can lift Plague Bearers, which is really important.
Yep.
And potentially even the GOU
Yep.
or whatever, Great Unclean One, and the Glockhin. I felt good about it, but it's obviously Nurgle. It's tough.
Yeah.
They're gonna rot you down, and he did.
A lot of durability,
A lot of
definitely
mortal
chip
wounds, which
damage.
I can't stop mortal wounds
Using
in melee.
Sloppity really well against you early.
I hate that model so
I
much.
did like the
I hate
you
Sloppity.
ripping Sloppity across the table so you get him in range.
Oh, yeah,
clap
no, you
him.
got it.
It
You
was
got to clap him.
Beautiful.
I might start taking him in Nurgle, or in Corn rather, right? I can ally in Sloppity. You can't pile in. I don't think it works that way. I got to bring some Plague Bears too, but we'll figure it out.
He's that attractive? You're ready to
Dude,
throw him
like,
in with some Plague Bears?
No pile in is such an amazing rule.
Yeah.
No command points is an amazing rule. Strikes first is an amazing rule. Like, that Nurgle has a ton of tools that I don't think get fully utilized right now
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
I definitely think, though, you had a great understanding of them. You navigated things really
Yeah.
well early on. Even with the 2 Bloodthirsters exposed, you did everything you could to keep them alive for as long as you could. You did a lot of damage
Yep.
with them.
Yeah, I was hoping to just go for the double early, and I didn't get it, obviously, but that's the game, right?
Yeah.
If you get the double, it's a totally different game. I blow up the world at that point, but we didn't get it, but we grind it out. Corn's pretty grindy, Nurgle's pretty grindy.
Yeah. Now, you're 2-1 going into tomorrow, so
Yep.
2 more solid rounds could put you
Yep.
in contention for a number of prizes. Is there anything that's in either the 2-1 or the 3-0 bracket potentially that you really don't want to run into?
I think Gitz is my biggest fear right now. I'm not sure how I do against Gitz.
Fair.
Like,
30 bounders is a lot of bounders.
there's a lot of bounders, so Gitz is probably the only thing I don't have a ton of experience against. Oops, all Varangard. I don't know if that kid's still 2-1. That could be a problem, right? I've played that matchup.
I think Ray is 2-1 currently.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, not Ray. Logan. Marcelo played him round 2.
Logan is as well. Did Ray lose his round?
I have no idea. But like high armor, Varangard can be scary, but Boom Thirster can do work. He's run 2. I can get him to run 3 or 4 pretty easily, and he can cut right through him. So.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully
Yeah.
things pan out for you well, but thank you for the game.
problem.
You guys
Thank
both
you.
played excellently, played through a lot of outs. Both of you. Paul was hauling ass trying to find tactics
I
against
know,
you in the mid and
it
late
was
game.
tough. It was real tough. It's tough. It's a good game.
But with that, thank you for joining us
Thank
in the
you,
booth
Tyler.
here. Great commentating
The
one of your
booth,
games
yeah.
finally. Yeah,
Yep.
the booth, our wide open booth.
If I had a fart, I'd say I'd leave you with this and just rip one.
Thank you.
But I don't. So, bye
Dan,
everybody. Thanks
always
for
an
watching.
incredibly kind Warhammer gamer, pro gamer. But with that, that will conclude our stream for today. That was the conclusion of round 3. We will be back tomorrow morning with rounds 4 and 5, streaming our undefeated tables. Start time for tomorrow is, I believe, 10 a.m. Madigan, 10 a.m. start tomorrow or 9? I think it's 10 also.
Let me get through this and then I want to talk to you.
Time TBD.
So you definitely have a clear theme.
Hello to my loving wife in the chat.
You don't really have a story being told, at least as far as I can tell. It just looks like clean.
Madigan confirming the start time, but nevertheless we'll be here with 2 more additional rounds of coverage and determining who our 5-0 player is, a potential best general or best overall, depending on their other scores. Oscar and Marcella still chugging along through their games, so excited to see how that pans out and which of them ends up 3-0. What time? That's a 9? Okay.
I couldn't see your other hand.
We are starting at 9 tomorrow. Madigan is lying. It is not 4:30 in the morning. We will be here at 9 a.m. to give you 2 more games of Age of Sigmar, round 5, streaming at about 1 o'clock-ish in the afternoon. So catch us there. I hope to have you back tomorrow with 2 more games, and thank you for your viewership. Until then, this is Tyler Bushy signing off the DaBoyz Golden Sprue Day 1 stream. Have a good night, everyone.